YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez, and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back together again, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a ranking of all 9 What If episodes of Season 2, since it finally ended today. So let's go ahead and get started ranking all 9 episodes, ranking them from worst to the best. Let's go ahead and get started. If I'm being honest, I pretty much like all of the episodes that were released this season, so even the Captain Carter episode being in last place is not bad. On the positives, I like that we actually got to explore more of Captain Carter's world, that we got to see what her time as an Avenger was like, and we actually get a switch of the Avengers where it's Iron Man, Captain Carter, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor, and instead of the Hulk, it's the Wasp, and I believe that is Janet Van Dyne's Wasp. And then we also get Bucky Barnes as like the secretary, and I thought there was just a lot of fun antics with that. However, and I think there's an emotional core to the story of Peggy and Steve. However, I feel like that this one just kind of was boring, to where I didn't really have any interest to go back and rewatch it, as I like that it's an interesting spin on Winter Soldier that mixes in the events of like Black Widow, and that instead of Hydra basically being the one that takes over Earth, not Earth. Wait, what am I talking about? The one the Hydra were the people that took Steve Rogers in and made him a stronger Hydra Stomper. No, it was Melina, Black Widow's adopted mom, and I mean, you get some cool fights in here with some of the Black Widows, but besides that, I don't really think it was that interesting. It didn't really make sense as to why they did that. Like, of all the things you could do, you decided to change that. But besides that, I think it was a fine episode, but it's easily one of my least favorites, and this is where I felt like we were just getting too much of Captain Carter, to be honest. So now we get into episode 2, which I actually liked this episode. It was kind of like an interesting version of what if the Avengers assembled in the 1980s, and the big threat they have to face is young Peter Quill when he does get his powers. And I thought it was a nice take. You know, you get a bunch of these 80s heroes that were around at that time. You get Hank Pym's Ant-Man, you get King T'Chaka's Black Panther, you get somehow the Winter Soldier in here, you get Mar-Vell, who was a pilot in the 1980s, you get Goliath, Bill Foster as Goliath in this episode. You also get, who else do you get? You also get the addition of Howard Stark and Peggy Carter in here. And then of course you even bring Thor into the mix. So it brings for a fun, unique take on the Avengers in an older fashion that I thought was quite interesting. That I honestly really enjoyed. And even them kind of fighting ego and all this stuff, it was cool. But that's kind of all it was. It was just cool enough. It didn't really have an interesting take. I like the little arc that they had with Hank Pym's Ant-Man and how he struggles with kids. Just a really neat storyline that they decided to do. So overall, it was a fine episode, but I still did enjoy it at least better than the episode 5. Alright, so now we're talking about the Christmas episode, and I thought the Christmas episode was quite good. I thought what this episode did really nicely is, of course, I love the addition of bringing Justin Hammer back, and the idea of making it like Die Hard in the MCU, and the thing that it makes sense as we're doing it in Avengers Tower. Die Hard took place in a big, giant building, and you have Happy Hogan, the one that is going to stop these terrorists invading Stark Tower. And I also like the way we got to see some of the Avengers, what they're doing during Christmas time. That was kind of a fun detail they added in here. And the idea of making Happy Hogan, Hulk Hogan was fun enough, but I don't know if I necessarily loved it. So it's like, it was fine for what it did. It kind of feels more like a sequel as to like if the like maybe it feels like that this event could have actually happened in like 2015. But at the same time I know it wouldn't because that's Avengers Age of Ultron. But yeah, I don't know. It's like they took that party that was supposed to be the Ultron bit. And so I honestly, when going into this episode, I thought this was gonna be like the Christmas episode for Iron Man 3 where Happy Hogan gets switched out for Tony Stark. Tony Stark dies, and Happy Hogan has to be the one to go avenge him and stop Ultra's killing him. I would have loved that, if I'm being honest. But besides that, it's a fun episode, and I like that the Hulk Hogan bit comes back in the 1602 episode. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, this is an episode that I actually have kind of forgotten about since this season has come out. But I will say it is still an episode that I still do really like. I think the best part about it is really, it's another take on a Guardians of the Galaxy member, where you're doing a unique take on them. Last season we got an episode about what if T'Challa became Star-Lord, even though he's not a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. It had a bunch of Guardians of the Galaxy characters in there, along with Black Panther characters. And so I thought this was a unique take, that it kind of felt like Blade Runner in space. And you got to see this darker version of Xandar. And you get the fun of bringing Yon-Rogg back and somehow the Nova Corps turning on Nebula. Like, I thought was kind of interesting to dive more deep into the Nova Corps. And then you also get the team up of Korg, Meek, Groot, and then Howard the Duck in the end. I thought it was fun. So it had a unique taste, but it's kind of forgettable when you have all these other episodes to watch. So that's my thoughts on the first episode. The finale actually streamed today, and as for my first thoughts, I thought the finale was pretty good. I liked that it was this big multiverse thing where basically we get the team up of Captain Carter and Kahhori, some of the most important characters. And when I started to find out that basically Strange, honestly, this episode should probably be at number like 7 or 6, maybe even a number 8. But I respected it a little bit because I liked the fights in here with like Captain Carter using almost all these MCU weapons, but honestly just kind of looked dumb to me. That you're making all these characters super powerful, and you have Captain Carter using the Infinity Stones and all that, and then you get the death of Supreme Strange, and he finally gets to make the reality, but he gets to make a reality that he doesn't get to live in. That's pretty sad, if I'm being honest. And then you get some of the most interesting stuff about this. You get to see more. You get to kind of get a tie into the multiverse in a way, and I like that it kind of did something unique with, like, why doesn't the Watcher just intervene? Because he knows something bad is happening, but he knows that Captain Carter can figure it out on her own. And so I kind of liked, I liked the way they handled that. So that's my general thoughts on the first, that's my thoughts on the finale, but I kind of have a lot of issues with the finale, to be honest, so I probably should have dropped it lower. And to me, this was another fun Marvel episode where we get what if the Avengers assembled in 1602, and I thought this was a very fun episode, but it was kind of weak. On the positives, I mean, having all these MCU characters being in this 1602 version of the MCU is quite fun. I mean, seeing, honestly, the funnest character, Ant-Man, as he's in this other 1602 world, he still has all these cravings. I love that we get like Steve Rogers as Rogers Hood or Robin Hood, as in the MCU during this time he's an outlaw on the run, and that's exactly who Robin Hood is. And I love the way they did that. While at the same time, they also found a way to, even the action when it comes to it was very cool. And the way they did it, and found that emotional core between the characters. I love that we got to see Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers in their, like, buff forms. So that was really cool. At the same time, though, I feel like there's just a lot of issues with this episode. First off, it just feels like that this is an episode that's just filled with so many random pieces of the MCU that's just so weird. Like, they literally bring in this one episode where, why is Hela in charge of this thing? Why is Thor using Loki's scepter as the weapon of kingdom? Why was the King of Wakanda made Heimdall's sword? And why are Nick Fury and Happy Hogan working for Thor or bowing down to him? Like, there's just so many confusing things. And how did Hulk Hogan appear in this episode when that happened in the Christmas episode? Fun take, but kind of weird. And then the whole twist when you realize the reason how all this happened was because it was in the Infinity War battle and Steve Rogers accidentally hit the Time Stone. Kind of a worthless plot point. And then you get, like, honestly, the more interesting take of this could have been Wanda made the MCU a 1602 version of the world. That she was obsessed with, like, folktale and folktale lore and stuff like that. That would have been a lot more interesting than creating all this other stuff. So that's my thoughts on this episode, but still a very fun and very enjoyable episode. So now this episode, I actually very much enjoyed myself with this episode, as it took a unique take. Like, instead of Tony Stark falling out of the portal, what if he actually never was able to go back into Earth, and he was whirling around the cosmos and he landed on Sakaar? And I thought that was an interesting take. And instead of having this arena and him having to fight someone, it was this racing thing. So, and honestly, I actually, now thinking about it, I'm thinking, what if this was Sakaar, like, way before Thor and Hulk came on Sakaar? Like, what if this is what Sakaar was during the age of the Avengers? And another thing that plays into it is Tony Stark, as he's so charismatic, he has great interactions with all the characters of the Thor Ragnarok film. So he has good interactions with Korg, with Valkyrie, even the Grandmaster. And there's all little quirks to him that he's able to, like, he's not being a prisoner to the Grandmaster. Like, the little thing on his neck, he's able to get it off with his arc reactor. And then the even other great thing I loved about this episode is his relationship with Gamora. And there's this other interesting thing, like, if Tony Stark was out in the cosmos since he blew up the mothership, what if Tony Stark's name was spread across the universe? And since Gamora was working for Thanos, what if Thanos sent Gamora to go find Tony Stark and kill him, or send him to him? But then you also realize it's another way to make Gamora and Tony Stark relatable, and I found that to be very interesting. Like, how did you guys do that? And it's crazy how you can tell how much Tony Stark and the daughters of Thanos have so much in common. That they've been through same of this much suffering, and I love that stuff. So, for me, I love this episode, and it's also just a very fun episode. Now, this was an episode I was interested in because it's a new character, it's a new type of story, and I thought it was overall great. I thought that, what if the Tesseract landed somewhere differently, and you have all these people, you have this Mohawk people going to do this new world. And it's just a very interesting concept for an episode. He introduced this character of Kahhori in here, and it's just an interesting little episode that I thought they crafted so well. Kahhori as a character as a whole is just such a unique character, and I like that they don't just that it kind of felt like a mixture of Avatar. That Kahhori entered this new world. She was this normal Mohawk person, and she's being hunted by conquistadors, and she falls into this new world where people have the powers of the Tesseract, and it's this bold new world. At the same time, this also kind of gives a Disney vibe, but it's almost like, what if she gained these powers, and she was, and throughout, as they were teasing her in the trailers, I was thinking, is she gonna be the new big bad of this season? Like, is she gonna be the new villain we'll have to stop? And no, that's not who she is at all. She actually is someone that's very confident and wants to use these powers to stop the bad guys. And I thought that was just very inspirational, and as she cares so much about her people, and I just thought that was very interesting. So, at the same time, it's not the most rewatchable episode. I probably should have put this at like number 3, because I liked the Tony Stark episode and enjoyed it more. But I just liked how much inspiration and I liked how inspirational it got, and I like that we're going to be seeing more of Mohawk culture, especially with Echo coming out next week. And for me, I was absolutely blown away by this episode. It basically takes the story of Thor, it's the Thor film, but takes place in an earlier time before Thor and Loki were ever raised by Odin, and actually kind of tells the story of what would happen if Odin actually never banished Hela to hell, and she actually got sent to Earth, but instead of her landing in New Mexico, she lands in China around the area of Wenwu and the Ten Rings. And there's an interesting thing of that. At first I was thinking, so is it gonna be like these two powerful people falling in love? This very powerful martial arts person with these powerful rings, as well as a person that wants to kill everybody and conquer 9 realms, more than 9 realms. And what's so interesting about this is you get a humanization of Hela. Whether it's with Wenwu, or whether it's with Shang-Chi's mom and the people of Ta Lo, where you start to realize, why does Hela want to get the 10 rings? Why does he want to get revenge on her father? Why does she want to conquer more than 9 realms? Why does she want to do this? Because she wants freedom. She wants freedom from control. And she, like Wenwu, wants to protect the world. Maybe at first, she didn't really want to destroy the world. She wanted to build this empire so she can protect the world, protect the cosmos. And I think that was a very interesting story. And what's also interesting is you got to see, as this is an earlier version, you got to see a bit of what Odin was like in his villain era. As you can just tell that he was just a bad parent, and Hela was able to prove herself. And now you have this journey of Hela and Wenwu fighting in the cosmos and saving the universe. And I think that's an interesting concept. At the same time, you also get the way that it was able to mix in the most interesting elements of Asgardian mythology, but also the stuff of martial arts with with the great established rule of Shang-Chi, as well as Ta Lo. Amazing. So it gave me everything I wanted it to be, as it's mystical and Shakespearean grandeur, and I love this episode. I could not get more. I wanted more of this. So that's my ranking of all 9 episodes of What If Season 2. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff in the about section over there, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.